the first time humans trusted an abstract idea. There was a moment when humans began believing in something they could not see, touch, or prove directly, and that decision quietly changed how reality itself was experienced. To understand when humans first trusted an abstract idea, we must return to a time when truth was physical, immediate, and sensory, when something was real only if it could be hunted, eaten, feared, or felt, and when survival depended on responding to what existed right in front of the body. In this earliest cognitive landscape, reality and perception were identical. What the senses reported was what existed. There was no layer of interpretation between observation and belief. Early humans trusted experience above all else. If something worked, it was repeated. If it failed, it was avoided. Knowledge lived in action, not in thought. Ideas were inseparable from objects and outcomes. Understanding was procedural, embedded in the doing rather than articulated in the thinking. A tool was understood through its use, not through a description of its properties. But slowly, humans began acting on things that were not present. A promise mattered even when the food was not visible. A warning mattered even when danger had not yet arrived. A symbol mattered even when the object it represented was gone. These were early acts of abstraction, moments when the mind treated something absent as though it were present, responding to representations rather than realities. This was the birth of abstraction. An idea began standing in for reality itself. A mark represented value. A word represented an object. A belief represented an outcome that had not yet occurred. The distance between the representation and the thing represented was the space in which abstraction lived. Each step further from direct experience expanded the range of what the mind could engage with, but also expanded the range of possible error. Trust shifted away from the senses and toward representation. Humans began behaving as if something unseen was real, simply because they agreed it was. This agreement was the essential mechanism. Abstraction does not work in isolation. It requires consensus. A symbol has meaning only if others recognize the same meaning. A promise is force only if others expect its fulfillment. The social nature of abstraction was as important as its cognitive nature. This was not imagination alone. It was commitment to an idea. And once humans learned to trust something abstract, their relationship with truth, power, and reality would never return to what it had been before. As abstraction gained trust, it began reshaping human coordination, because once ideas could stand in for reality, action no longer required direct experience. The implications of this shift were enormous. Coordination between individuals had previously depended on shared presence, on being in the same place at the same time, responding to the same perceptible conditions. Abstraction broke that requirement. Agreements mattered even when nothing changed physically. Promises guided behavior before results appeared. Symbols carried weight without substance. A handshake, a spoken vow, a mark on a surface could organize human action across time and space in ways that physical proximity alone could not achieve. This allowed humans to cooperate at larger scales. Strangers trusted shared ideas. Groups formed around concepts rather than blood alone. Meaning traveled faster than action. The ability to share an abstract idea, to install the same concept in multiple minds simultaneously, gave human groups a coordination mechanism of unprecedented power. Abstract ideas also created consistency. Rules applied even when no one was watching. Value persisted beyond objects. Time, debt, and obligation could exist without immediate proof. These invisible structures operated continuously, shaping behavior even in the absence of enforcement. The mind, having accepted the reality of an abstraction, regulated its own behavior according to that abstraction's demands. But abstraction also introduced vulnerability. Ideas could be manipulated. Symbols could lie. Belief could replace evidence. The same mechanism that allowed a promise to organize cooperative behavior could also allow a falsehood to organize destructive behavior. Abstraction was neutral. It amplified whatever content it carried, regardless of that content's relationship to physical reality. Those who controlled abstraction gained power. They defined meaning. They shaped behavior without physical force. Authority moved from strength to interpretation. The ability to create, modify, and disseminate abstract ideas became one of the most potent forms of social power, capable of organizing entire populations around concepts that existed nowhere except in shared belief. Yet humans leaned into abstraction because it worked. Coordination improved. Planning expanded. Society grew more complex. The practical advantages of abstract thinking consistently outweighed its risks, driving its adoption deeper into every domain of human activity. Reality was no longer only what was seen. It was also what was believed, and belief was becoming a force in its own right. As abstract ideas took hold, they began reshaping power, identity, and conflict, because once belief could override direct experience, reality itself became negotiable. The consequences of this shift extended far beyond individual cognition. Entire social structures reorganized around the capacity for abstraction. Groups organized around shared concepts rather than shared survival alone. Laws existed even when they were not enforced physically. Value existed even when objects were absent. Trust shifted from people to systems. The personal trust that had governed small group interactions was gradually supplemented by institutional trust, confidence in abstract frameworks rather than in specific individuals. This made society scalable, but also made them fragile. If belief collapsed, systems collapsed with it. An abstract idea required constant reinforcement to remain real. The maintenance of shared abstraction demanded storytelling, ritual, education, and enforcement, all of which served to refresh and strengthen the collective commitment to ideas that had no physical existence. Abstraction also separated appearance from truth. Something could look safe but be dangerous. Something could feel valuable but be empty. Humans learned to act on meaning instead of sensation. This separation created new forms of deception and new forms of insight. The ability to see beyond appearances, to recognize that surface and substance could diverge, was itself a product of abstract thinking. Those who mastered abstraction gained influence. They spoke in symbols, promises, and projections. They shaped futures by shaping belief. The political, religious, and economic leaders who emerged in complex societies were those who could most effectively create, communicate, and sustain abstract ideas. But abstraction also created distance. Decisions were made without seeing consequences. Harm became indirect. Responsibility diffused across ideas instead of actions. The chain between decision and outcome lengthened until the person making the decision could no longer perceive the effects of their choice. This distance made large-scale coordination possible, but also made large-scale harm possible. This was the conflict of abstraction. It enabled cooperation beyond instinct, but weakened accountability to reality. Humans had learned to trust what they could not touch. And once that trust existed, it could be used to build worlds, or to break them. The climax of trusting an abstract idea was not belief itself, but the moment humans allowed ideas to override what their senses told them. Because once something unseen could guide behavior, reality stopped being limited to what was physically present. Humans would act on promises, values, rules, and systems that existed only because everyone agreed they did. This shift unlocked extraordinary coordination. Societies expanded. Trade flourished. Laws endured. Entire civilizations formed around ideas that could not be touched, hunted, or seen. But abstraction also carried danger. When belief replaced evidence completely, reality became flexible. Harm could be justified. Responsibility could dissolve. Decisions could be made far from their consequences. Even today, we live inside this discovery. Money has value because we agree it does. Borders exist because we believe in them. Systems function because trust holds them together. Abstract ideas allow the modern world to exist. But they also demand constant awareness, because when belief drifts too far from reality, collapse follows. The first time humans trusted an abstract idea, they gained the power to build invisible structures stronger than stone. And that power still shapes every choice we make. Subscribe to join the journey. The